Abraham is known as the father of faith because of his obedience, trust, and relationship with God. While he faced many tests, the greatest test was God's command to offer Isaac, his only son, as a sacrifice. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. Hebrews 11:17. This study will explore Abraham's life, faith, tests, and how this ultimate trial teaches us about obedience, trust, and God's provision. Abraham's early life and call of faith. Called from Ur of the Chaldees, Genesis 12:1-3. God commanded Abraham, then Abram, to leave his country and family, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and I will make of thee a great nation. This was Abraham's first test of faith, obedience without knowing the destination. Immediate obedience, Genesis 12:4. Abraham obeyed at once, showing trust in God's promises. Lesson for today. Faith often begins with stepping into the unknown. Obedience to God precedes understanding. Abraham's journey of faith and patience, promise of a son, Genesis 1:5-6. God promised Abraham a son, and he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Abraham had to wait decades for the fulfillment of God's promise. Tests along the way, Genesis 16. Hagar and Ishmael. Abraham struggled to trust God's timing. Genesis 17. God reaffirmed the covenant, changing Abram's name to Abraham, father of many nations. Lesson for today. Faith involves trusting God's promises even when circumstances seem impossible. The promise and the impossible situation. Isaac, the child of promise, Genesis 21:1-3. God miraculously gave Abraham a son at 100 years old. Isaac was not just any son, he was the fulfillment of God's covenant. The greatest test introduced, Genesis 20:1. And it came to pass after these things, that God did tempt Abraham. God commanded Abraham to offer Isaac as a burnt offering. Isaac represented the fulfillment of God's promises. Obedience seemed impossible. God may call us to sacrifice what we hold most dearly, not to destroy us, but to test and refine our faith. Abraham's response to the test, immediate obedience, Genesis 22:3. Abraham rose early and obeyed without hesitation. He trusted God's character, even when the command was heartbreaking and perplexing. Faith and trust. Abraham reasoned that God could raise Isaac from the dead, if necessary, Hebrews 11:19. His faith was rooted in God's promises, not in circumstances. True faith trusts God's wisdom, timing, and provision, even in the face of impossible tests. Journey to Mount Moriah, 3-day journey, Genesis 22:4. Abraham took Isaac to servants and wood for the sacrifice. The journey reflects the process of faith under trial, often long and challenging. Isaac's submission, Genesis 20:6-8. Isaac carried the wood, Abraham carried the knife. Abraham trusted God, Isaac trusted Abraham. Faith often involves suffering, sacrifice, and submission. Yet God sees our heart and obedience. The moment of sacrifice, Abraham lifts the knife, Genesis 22:9-10. Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac. Emotional, spiritual, and physical tension reaches its peak. God's intervention, Genesis 20:11-12. An angel stopped Abraham. Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God. Abraham's faith and obedience were proven perfect. God sometimes tests faith to reveal our true devotion, not to punish. Obedience proves reverence and trust in God. God's reward for Abraham's faith, provision of the ram, Genesis 20:13. God provided a ram as a substitute offering. This foreshadows Jesus Christ, the ultimate sacrifice for humanity, John 1:29. Promise reaffirmed, Genesis 20:15-18. God reiterated the covenant. Because thou hast obeyed my voice, and hast not withheld thy son, in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Abraham's obedience strengthened God's covenant and plan for salvation. Lesson for today. God rewards obedience, sometimes beyond our expectation, and aligns us with his eternal plan. Section 8. Spiritual lessons from Abraham's test. Faith and obedience are inseparable. Hebrews 11:17-19 emphasizes that faith without obedience is incomplete, God honors sacrifice. Abraham was willing to give his most precious possession, demonstrating total trust. Foreshadowing Christ, Isaac as the only son foreshadows Jesus, the ultimate sacrifice for mankind. Testing strengthens faith, trials refine, purify, and strengthen spiritual maturity. James 1-2-4. How Abraham's test relates to believers today. 1. Trust God in difficult circumstances. Like Abraham, we may face heartbreaking decisions, losses, or trials. 2. Obedience precedes understanding. Faith requires obedience even before the outcome is clear. 3. God provides substitutes and deliverance just as He provided the ram. God provides Jesus and solutions in our trials. 4. Faith impacts generations. Abraham's obedience influenced all nations, showing that faithful choices have eternal consequences.